on this episode of Tell Us a Story.
And I do agree that globally, chocolate is the right answer. I'm a weirdo. There's no one really in my family who performs other than me. So I was a math nerd as a kid, but I did have a love for performance.
So talk to me about your work and discipline as Topher Keene vocal coaching.
At the higher levels, coaching tends to be a little more like medicine. It's very personalized to the person and to their needs and to their specific situation.
I do know that when I have a microphone in front of me, I speak very differently, because I'm like a screaming banshee otherwise.
Now, the influencers have helped everybody else because at the end of the day, most people who are into singing, acting, public speaking, they want to have, a couple hundred views, couple thousand views, maybe 1 million subscribers on YouTube or TikTok. I got some good stories about Tiger Woods, but we'll save that for another time. So
for the next time. Friend, tell me about the Grammy.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Welcome to Tell Us a Story, the podcast by Belmont City Press, where entrepreneurs and sales professionals share their journeys, insights, and strategies for success. In each episode, our guests reveal how they've overcome challenges, established their brands, and leveraged their stories to promote their businesses so you can too. I'm Red Hilton, your host for this episode. Today I'm joined by Topher Keene, who is the founder of Topher Keene Vocal Coaching. So, Topher, tell us a story.
Thanks, Red. Hi, I'm Topher Keene, and at Topher Keene Vocal Coaching, I help singers, speakers, actors, and influencers build better voices with the specific purpose of achieving your performance goals, connecting with others, and communicating with more impact. My ideal client is a performer or a professional who uses your voice to connect with others and is looking to improve your voice, build vocal power and stamina, and communicate more expressively so that you can ultimately achieve your goal of having the voice you've always dreamed of. You can discover more at my website, topherkeene.com, and I can easily be reached at the contact page on my website. So reach out now so that you can start building a better voice today.
That's fabulous. I love what it is that you do. So, and I love your journey getting there. Talk to us about what your journey has been getting to Topher Keene Vocal Coaching.
Well, it's an interesting question, Red, because a lot of people who get into music and performance have a family full of performers. My wife was born into a family full of people who are natural musicians. There's no one really in my family who performs other than me. So I was a math nerd as a kid, but I did have a love for performance. And so even there's videos of me at 3 months old babbling into a microphone. At 5 years old in kindergarten, I was Hansel in Hansel and Gretel and memorized all my lines. And I made Gretel cry because she forgot some of her lines. I thought it was a little unprofessional at the time. And then as I went through high school and college, I sang in choirs, I did musicals, I got into film and television acting, did a lot of public speaking, and just really realized that was my passion. I for a while, I thought I might be a math teacher. I thought I might be a psychology teacher. For a long time, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And I realized in senior year of high school, when I spent some time with lawyers, that my vision of being a lawyer was from television and movies. It was, you can't handle the truth. And I sat with some lawyers and they spend all day on paperwork. And I looked around and said, well, what's the thing I really love? And I realized the thing I loved the most was being in choir, being in musicals, being in plays. And it was something I wasn't naturally gifted at, something that I had to work for, and most other things that wasn't the case. So it was the right intersection of love, but also something I had to put real work and discipline into that I knew would be the right fit for me for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. So talk to me about your work and discipline as Topher Keene Vocal Coaching. Talk to me about what it is that people experience, inside of your coaching.
Totally. So it's very variable in when you work with a coach. Some coaches have a cookie cutter approach that works for everybody, and that can be very helpful if what they offer is what you want. At the higher levels, coaching tends to be a little more like medicine. It's very personalized to the person and to their needs and to their specific situation, right? So I tend to say the bad coaches tend to just have everybody sound terrible. The mediocre, good, average coaches will get you sounding good, but all the students kind of sound similar. They'll say, like, you sound like someone who studied with Topher, right? The excellent coaches, the best coaches I've ever worked with, and the coach that I try to be is someone where all their students are amazing, but in entirely different ways, very uniquely. So you would never guess that they all study at the same studio. So for example, I have a man who works with me on the executive coaching side who was winning Shark Tank level presentations for high level business in full three-piece suits, very professional, very authoritative. And then he sent his son to me to work on YouTube type presentations. And, hey guys, welcome to my channel. Smash that subscribe button. Let's get into it. And you could not get two more different presentational styles, but the style of coaching that I have is to adapt to the needs of the person and help them fulfill their goals in a unique way, right? So it really is very personalized when I work with someone. I'm really not a cookie cutter coach.
That's awesome. It's sort of like when I am speaking with someone who's a grammar nerd, I'm like, am I being judged? Now is every time I open my mouth, I'm like, what is he thinking of me?
No judgment here. Don't worry. It's funny because you mentioned the grammar thing. In elementary school, I got perfect scores in every subject: English, writing, math, science. But I only had one subject I failed, and it was penmanship. And I thought, that's crazy, because if you can read my English enough to give me an A, I can at least get a D in penmanship. You can't fail my penmanship. So yeah, I'm there with you more on the penmanship side than the grammar side, but I'm there with you of having the trauma from childhood.
I'm not actually passing that either, quite honestly. you and I can both be pre-med together. That's fine.
Perfect. The digital helps a lot, the typing and the texting.
3,000%. So what is your approach to vocal coaching? Walk us through that, and the no judgment zone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. So when somebody starts with me as a vocal coach, the first step is a free consultation where I hear your voice. We might sing a song, we might read a prepared text, perform a monologue, depending on your focus. If you're a singer, an actor, or a speaker, I might review a YouTube video if you're more of a influencer. And we talk about what's working for you, what kind of voice do you have, and where do you want to go? Because there's a wide variety of goals someone might come in with. I have some who come in and say, I'd like to be able to sing happy birthday with my family when there's a birthday and not feel embarrassed. And I got other people who say, I want to release 5 albums and write my life story as a song. And I got people who say, I want to be on Netflix. I got people who say, I just want to be able to post some Instagram lives and feel moderately comfortable, get 30 views and just feel like my family's not making fun of me. I want to be able to negotiate with my boss a little better and explain things better. So a big part of it is narrowing down your goals to what is it you need, and then figuring out, will coaching actually help you here? Because a lot of people don't need lessons, surprisingly enough. It is what I sell. So you'd think that I would believe everyone needs lessons, but I don't. I think a lot of people, if they say, I want to get into acting, I go, well, join your school play or try a community theater class. There's other places to go instead of private coaching. So I want to help the people who need my help. So if I think there's some way, a lot of people, singers especially, will come to me and say, I just wish I was a good singer. And they'll sing a song for me. I go, you are a good singer. So you don't need me to make you a good singer. You need a mindset shift that you can either do yourself, or you can go to therapy, or you could talk to a priest, or you can work with me and I'll help you on the mindset. But you don't need lessons. You're good. Just believe you're good. Now, other people come and they're not good. So there are some singers who it's not just a believe in yourself thing. You believe in yourself to the degree that you have the capacity to do those things, right? So you could believe that God's going to provide for you. You jump out of the plane, your parachute opens. Great. There's a level of faith. But if you don't have a parachute and you say, I believe in myself, I can do it no matter what, I have self-confidence. It's like, well, you need the parachute too, though. That's the thing so you need the voice, and some have the voice, some don't, but everyone can be trained to develop that voice. So in that first lesson, we're setting goals, we're doing some basic technique, we're figuring out what kind of voice you have and what you can do to make it better. And most importantly, we're figuring out, do you need lessons? Is it the best path?
Yeah, I won't be singing today.
That's okay. I won't make you, I promise.
Just so we're clear on that. I do know that when I have a microphone in front of me, I speak very differently because I'm like a screaming banshee otherwise. So I at least rein it in mildly.
Well, and I'll tell you, Red, that is actually the correct technique. It is the real challenge when performers move from acoustic settings where they're just performing on their own or speaking in a small crowd to being amplified, is that we feel the need to come to the mic, to speak our voice out and project, especially the theater kids. If you had any experience as a theater kid, every elementary, middle school, high school director says, project, because schools can't afford nice mic setups. So they need you to be loud enough. The second you've got a microphone, volume is the mic's job. You can be as quiet as you want, and you might have to get a little closer to the mic to get that to work, but that's fine. There's some technique to the microphone. microphone, but it's the mic's job to get you to the audience. It's your job to let the mic come to you, to have your voice as beautiful as possible. So I'm actually really glad to hear that, because a lot of people who speak, they struggle with using non-microphone voices on the microphone, and the microphone is not very forgiving of the non-microphone voice.
100%.
We need a bit of technique. So
thanks for the ASMR, by the way.
Of course, it's important for the views,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so you have several verticals in your studio. What are the lessons learned across those verticals, across the intent of your clients as they come through the door?
Yeah, so some vocal coaches specialize in singers, speakers, actors, and there's a lot of value there. I've just found in my career that I really enjoy working with anyone who wants to improve their voice and their performance skills. So I started primarily with singers and then branched out more to actors, eventually into public speakers, even stand-up comedians, and a lot of podcasters, YouTubers, TikTokers, influencers as well. And what I found was that every time I worked with a new kind of person, I gained lessons from them that I could help the other students with. Because most singers are not just singers. If you've ever been to a live concert, they often are talking in between the songs and engaging with the audience. The best performers do this all the time. Taylor Swift, Beyonce, they joke with their audience. They talk about the songs and tell their background and their stories, right? And so if I'm working with professional speakers, I can help the singers become more competent in their speaking. And it's not just on stage. You got to be able to negotiate for contracts and, deal with what you're going to get paid. And still in your daily life, talking to friends and family, you need those speaking skills. Conversely, for the speakers, those who don't use singing skills, what they gain from my singing experience is the ability to train the voice as a muscle. It's a real thing that I focus on a lot in my studio. Most speakers think just speaking is enough to make the voice good. And that would be like saying just playing golf is enough to get your body strong enough to be a top golf player. But every top golf player lifts weights, because stronger shoulders, stronger hips, even stronger legs. You think of golf as an upper body sport, but the power of that drive comes from the hips and the legs. So the top people, they're training the body and increasing the muscle mass. Singing is the thing that puts muscle mass on the voice. It's the thing that grows the voice. It's like lifting and training. Speaking is more like stretches and yoga and Pilates. They're great. They're healthy for you. They're not going to put a lot of muscle on the body in general. So the singing exercises help the speakers, the actors, the influencers to train the muscles and get more powerful. Now, the influencers have helped everybody else, because at the end of the day, most people who are into singing, acting, public speaking, they want to have, a couple hundred views, couple thousand views, maybe 1 million subscribers on YouTube or TikTok or something like that. So working with the influencers has really helped me to understand the algorithm a little better and how to drive better attention on social media. So yeah, all of my students help each other to learn skills from across many different verticals. And I find that general approach to many different students to be really valuable.
Excellent. I'm also going to tag this show as golf tips.
Perfect. Hashtag golf tips. I have a couple of good golfers in the studio. There's some. I got some good stories about Tiger Woods, but we'll save that for another time. So
for the next time, friend, tell me about the Grammy.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the Grammys, for almost everybody in the audience, they'll be familiar. The Grammys are the top awards for music in the music industry, like the Golden Globes for film or like the Olympics for sports. Grammys are the biggest thing in the music industry. A couple years back, there was a group called Pentatonix, an a cappella group that, again, most of the listeners are probably familiar with. They were really incredible, but there wasn't a clear category in the Grammys that fit them. So the Grammys actually had to create a new category of award that fit Pentatonix as an a cappella group. And I thought that's the coolest thing. You're really good if you get the award, but you're really good if they have to create a new award just for you, right? And so a little bit after that, the Grammys actually created a separate award specifically for music educators. They realized that after years and years of celebrating the musicians, that celebrating the educators who taught them to be musicians is a really important part of helping those musicians grow. So I was actually honored to be a quarterfinalist for the Grammy Award for Music Educator of the Year. And that's, one of the things I'm most proud of. It was a result of my work with thousands of students, including in underprivileged schools, where I helped thousands of young kids to have large workshops. We get 200 kids in the auditorium, get them standing up, get them singing, getting them connected to their voices. So that was a real big honor for me to have that award.
That is fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, You have something sort of in common with Pentatonix. And I'm assuming
yeah, they're actually one of the only bands I've ever seen live. I saw them in Boston, and you'd think as a music guy, I go to concerts all the time. I'm the guy who makes music. So I just don't engage with it. I don't know how much Michael Jordan goes to basketball games for fun. He plays the basketball, right?
I think he golfs.
Yeah,
maybe he's
exactly.
listening to you and coming to you for your golf tips. There you go.
You're right. Yeah. So I like to make the music. I don't really go to concerts that much, but Pentatonix, when they were in Boston, I had to see them live. So
and I saw them in Boston. We may have been.
Oh, really? We might have been at the same concert.
Might have. It's entirely possible. So tell me what one of the biggest misconceptions people have about, vocal coaching. I think we've touched on a few of them, but like what are your top 2 or 3 that people have?
Yeah, so the biggest misconception is certainly that people are born with a voice, right? And anyone who's had a baby or been around a baby knows that babies have strong voices. They've got a diaphragm, they can project, they got the high notes, but none of them come out singing beautifully. 0 of the amazing singers that you love came out of the womb singing gorgeously. Everyone learned. Some of us learned at 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old. And some of us had to learn in our teens, in our 20s, or even in our 40s, 50s, 60s. But it is a learnable skill. The voice is a set of muscles. It can be grown. There's solid technique. Now, I'm not being a liar here and saying everyone can be Beyonce. She's a once-in-a-generation talent. Most everyone who's watching this is never going to be as good as Beyonce. She was born with a gift and then trained that gift extensively. But there's a phrase a lot of people hear around in the self-development space that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that's true. Hard work will beat natural talent if the talent's lazy. But the extension to that line is that if talent works hard, it beats both of them. And that's the thing is when you're getting a Tiger Woods, when you're getting a Michael Jordan, when you're getting a Michael Jackson, when you're getting a Beyonce, when you're getting a Red Hilton, when you're getting somebody at the top of their game, then you're getting somebody who has not just the natural talent, but also the work to get to the level of manifesting that talent fully. So we're all born with some different level of natural talent, but we all have the capacity to put in the work and manifest the talent we were born with. So there's really no such thing as someone who could never learn to sing, barring some kind of severe physical, mental disability. You always have to leave that out. If somebody's had throat cancer, they've had their vocal cords removed, then, this is a special situation. They probably could still improve their communication skills. I've worked with people with severe, major life-impacting disabilities and still seen dramatic improvement. But we're limited by our physicality, our biology, our psychology, things like that. In general, none of us has reached our capacity. So if our capacity is here and we're here, a coach can help you come closer to that natural capacity.
Do you think age and when you start training your voice is a huge advantage?
Oh, certainly. There's a big advantage to starting young. A lot of different domains have that case. Ballerinas in general need to start, but before age 6, sometimes even before age 4, because their hips will literally form differently as a result of that. Baseball pitchers, their shoulders will settle in a different position if they start pitching young before the bones have fully finished developing. So there is something to be said for starting early on a physiological level. However, there are always lots of exceptions, and there are lots of stories of beautiful, amazing professional singers who started in their 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, 60s. I've met plenty of singers who have started later in life and still become fantastically skilled, and even more so on the side of acting and speaking, because those are more natural functions of the voice that we all use. We're all acting every day. When you steal cookies and mom says, "Who took the cookies?" It's, that's your first attempt at acting, right? And we're all public speaking when we have a job interview, when you propose to somebody for them to marry you. Like, these are big public speaking gigs right here, right? So we've all had that experience. Even if we've never sung in public, we've had some performance experience where we put our voice out in the world in front of others, right? And so we could learn to do that better. So there's certainly an advantage to starting young, I won't lie, but you can always start later and still see improvement.
It's funny, I teach an improv for business communications course, and getting people to understand that we're all improvisers every day, as you're saying, we're all communicators. Every day we're communicating. Every day we're using our voice.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it's very funny because on the speaking side, I kind of divide out into a few different forms of speaking with all of my students. You have improvisational, conversational speech where you don't know what you're going to say next. You have scripted speech where you write out every single word to say. But where most people falter is the semi-outlined speech. And that's what most podcasts are. That's what most people who you see that you love as speakers are doing. And most amateurs never even try this modality where you outline some bullet point topics, you know your go-to stories within those topics. So you're comfortable, you have a bit of a roadmap, but you're not feeling the obsessiveness to get every word perfect because you haven't actually scripted out the full script. That incorporates the improvisational conversational style with the benefits of having a roadmap from the script and gives you a bit of the best of both worlds. So when people shut down on the improvisational conversational side, it's because they don't know what to say next. When people shut down on the scripted side, it's because they're afraid of making a mistake and they're over practiced. So when you have a general outline of here are a couple stories, then you're ready to go. A lot of public school students, they really stress out about the first week back to school because the teachers will say, tell us something you did over the summer. And they go, I don't know. And it's like, that's a pretty easily predictable question. You've had the whole summer to have 2 sentences about what you did over the summer. It could be a new video game. It could be going to the mall and buying some new clothes. It could be going to the beach. It could just be that you saw some really funny memes on Instagram. Like, it doesn't really matter as long as you've got a sentence or 2 to say and then sit down. Well, so there's not really an excuse to not have at least a general outline for a question like that. That's a big part of what we do with speakers in the studio when they have anxiety, is to help them feel comfortable improvising and conversational, comfortable on a script, but most comfortable in that loosely outlined format.
Right. And for kids going back to school, my thing is create your own truth. They're not going to know what you did. Just say something.
Yeah, it's the what was the Dr. Seuss funny thing happened on Mayberry Street or something like that. I was riding an elephant and then a parade came by and cotton candy fell from the sky. And
all true.
You got to keep it within reason, or else you stretch believability. But I think if you say we went to the beach and they're like, oh, that's so cool, and you're like, it's like they don't need to know that what you mean is you went in your pool in your backyard and you pretended it was the beach. It's fine.
To your point, and I think you and I spoke about this before, is I speak about pageant points all the time with people who I'm coaching. My daughter did pageants for Miss Massachusetts Young Miss. I did her coaching for her on stage questions and her interview questions and everything else. And as I speak to business owners as well, we talk about having your pageant points, having 3 to 5 things that cold, that regardless of what someone asks you, you can sort of make your way back to, and you can speak with authority. So that even though if you might be navigating through something, you're navigating towards something where you have a comfort level and you can, speak with that confidence as well. So pageant points.
100%. And you see it the strongest on the political side, regardless of what your political beliefs might be. You can see the stronger and the weaker ones on either side of the aisle in the middle of interviews. The strongest ones will always know what their key point is. And no matter what the question is, they'll find a way to drive it back to that point. So if you're strong on education and they ask about gun control, you're going to redirect it back to education. If they ask about immigration, you're going to redirect it back to education because that's where you're strong. You've got your bullet point. You've got your key phrase that you want. And everybody knows that even in these long form debates, long form interviews, what really goes viral and what people really remember are the short moments. It's the 30-second, 60-second clip. So everybody who's well trained in media, everyone who's an effective performer, they're trying to nail that 1-sentence, 2-sentence tagline that just really goes viral.
Fabulous. Yeah. Tell me about your website. What are people going to find there?
Yeah, my website is topherkeene.com. That's TOPHERKEENE with an E at the end. And at topherkeene.com, you'll learn more about my studio, the various people I serve. There are practice pages for singers, for actors, for speakers, with recorded exercises, with links to blog posts, links to YouTube videos, lots of things you can practice on your own. You can also schedule a free first session and consultation with me. That's usually the easiest way to work with me is we set up a free consultation over Zoom. I hear your voice. We go over some goals and we see if coaching's right for you. Those do fill up fast and availability is limited. So I'd encourage you, if you enjoy what you're hearing today, to go on over to the website, topherkeene.com, and sign up for one of those free spots now.
That's fabulous. And so, Topher, what is your Monty? So as you know, Monty is our mascot here at Belmont City Press, and he's sort of this beacon of inspiration or a lesson learned or a mantra that we sort of carry with us. So what is your Monty?
I thought about this a lot after learning so much about Belmont City Press. The story that captures my teaching more than any is a wonderful woman I met at a church once. I was doing what's called a community sing, where I get together and get the whole congregation singing and teach them a couple of songs and go away from that performative style that a lot of people are used to, where there's someone at the top who's singing to you, and get into a communal setting where we're all singing together. And it was wonderful. It was beautiful, lots of fun. And people came up afterwards to shake my hand and thank me. And this one woman, in her 80s, 90s, she came up to me and almost tears in her eyes and held my hand and said, "Young man, that's the first time I've sung since I was a child." And I kind of passed on the pastor to keep the line down. I said, "Honey, could you come over here and tell me more of that story? Because I really want to hear what that story is." And she told me that when she was little, in elementary school, that she was getting ready for the concert, the choir concert. She was in her little red dress, standing backstage, and the teacher had bent down to her and said, "Honey, just mouth the words." And it impacted her so deeply that she never sang after that day. And she still remembered the color of the dress 70, 80 years later. And that really stuck with me, that I don't think that teacher was a bad person. I don't think she was trying to crush the spirit of a young singer and tell her to never sing again. I think she knew that this girl, was a little loud, a little out of pitch, would maybe make the overall performance a little bit worse, and said, "Honey, for now, mouth the words. And then over time, you'll learn and you'll get better and you'll fit into the choir. But for right now, let's just mouth the words so that everybody enjoys the concert." I think, I try to give some grace and generousness there. But I've spoken with enough people in my life that I found almost everyone who is self-conscious as a performer, whether that's as a speaker or a singer or an actor, or if they're trying to do some influencing stuff on social media, anyone who's hesitant, they often have a story like that. Someone in their life, a mom, a brother, a friend, a partner, who said, "Oh, you're not very good at this. You should try something else. You can't carry a tune in a bucket. Oh man, you're really bad at that. Oh, that was really rough." And that person may have not been being cruel in the moment, but it becomes the excuse to give in to the fear and never perform again. So as much as I enjoy working with my top pros and working with people who are enthusiastic to come, the moments I'm most proud of in my life is some of those older seniors who've come to me and said, "I haven't performed in 55 years. And now that I've worked with you, I feel ready to go out and sing some karaoke or sing happy birthday to my grandchild or sing a lullaby to my niece." Those moments for me are far more impactful than the sold out crowds, the big audiences.
Don't let anyone dim your light.
Yeah. Let your little light shine.
Absolutely. All right. Are you ready for our rapid fire session?
I am. My fire extinguisher is full. I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you two choices and you let me know which one speaks to you. And as usual, I will let you know if you're right or wrong. And it's always based in fact. And by fact, I mean, in my opinion. So yes, that's what we're dealing with right here. Okay. Would you rather cook or clean? Cook. Okay. All right. We could be roommates. This is we're starting off strong, Topher. We're starting off strong.
As long as you're cleaning up from my cooking, I can be a little messier. So, I think there's some freedom there.
I didn't say that necessarily. Do you like mint or cinnamon?
Ooh, mint.
Okay,
mint.
that's
I used
good.
to get fresh mint in the woods of Maine as a kid, so some strong memories there.
Mint or spearmint?
Spearmint gum, yeah, definitely.
Really? Yeah, I'm new conversion to the spearmint gum. As a child, my dad didn't like it, and I think back when I was a child, if your parents didn't like something, you never had it. That is sort of how I grew up. So I grew up also thinking I was allergic to orange soda, and I was in my 30s before I realized my mother just didn't like orange soda and didn't want to buy it. So
it's a good parenting hack. The false allergy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just bringing it up in counseling again. So would you rather go on a hot air balloon ride or a helicopter ride?
Hot air balloon. My hometown in Maine actually has a balloon festival every year. So hot air balloons are very close to my childhood.
Absolutely not. That doesn't mean you have to go in them.
It's fair. That's fair. They are scary. I give you that. The giant flames right next to your face. But it's the nostalgia for me. That's what does it. Yeah.
I'll observe them, but I'm not going in them. Of course, I'm not even fond of a helicopter ride either. So anything.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The helicopter has a lot more moving parts. See,
it's hot air balloon, 5 feet above the ground. I'm not.
As long as you don't fall out of the hot air balloon, it mostly just kind of drifts to the ground. If the helicopter, something goes wrong with those, propellers, it's going down pretty fast.
That's not a drift. Yeah, exactly. Would you sweet potato fries or regular fries?
Oh, definitely regular fries, but I do love sweet potatoes. But yeah, no, fries are a top food for me. So that's easy choice.
Don't mess with perfection. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Scrambled or fried eggs?
Scrambled, but overcooked. I don't like them runny and watery. And also I'm lactose intolerant, so no milk, just like an overcooked, just the eggs, a little bit of butter.
Okay. All right. But okay. Risotto or pasta?
Pasta.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure, Topher. A really good risotto, I don't think you can beat.
Well, I'm cooking, so I'm going to go with pasta. So.
Well, there you go. And the classic, chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla. I'm not a chocolate guy. I'm really not.
Topher.
I understand. I know. I understand. I get it.
It's not even that I love chocolate. I tell the story all the time. When I was younger, my younger sister got an ice cream making machine when she was a child and made vanilla ice cream. And I was violently ill. I think I saw Jesus.
Yep.
Like it was bad.
Yep.
Putting my affairs in order at age 7. And I can't have it anymore. Definitely an ice cream.
Well, it's funny because I told you I'm lactose intolerant, right? And for 10 years, so I didn't become lactose intolerant until I was 22. It just sometimes it happens in your 20s as an adult. But for 10 years after that, I couldn't even do the substitutes, the almond milk, so whatever, because it smelled and tasted like dairy, and my body had this reaction of like, this stuff makes you sick. And so it's like, I know this particular thing is not making me sick, but my psychology was telling me, so yeah, if you vomit with one particular food, I puked once with ham as a kid, couldn't eat ham for 25 years, and just because like my body just rejects it immediately. So I got you, and I do agree that globally chocolate is the right answer. I'm a weirdo. I do really love. I think vanilla is a legit flavor, but I'm kind of a vanilla extremist here because people will say that vanilla is like the neutral choice, like the absence of flavor. It's not. It's a real flavor. Like wars were fought and ships were sent with hundreds of men to conquer nations to bring back the vanilla bean, and so there's legitimacy to the flavor. It's not just neutral. It's not nothing. It's a legitimate flavor. You can hate the flavor. That's fair. But to say it's not a flavor is just so disrespectful to the history of vanilla. So I do believe in the vanilla bean.
The impassioned plea for everyone to accept vanilla as, an actual flavor.
You can call me Vanilla Bean Keen if you want. That's fine.
That's what we're going to call you from now on. Absolutely.
Perfect.
And I can't wait for someone to start dry heaving the next time they have ham and think of you.
Yes.
That's precious.
Yeah,
All right. One more time, the website where they can find you, your social medias. We'll put links in the show notes, but let us know where it is that people can find you.
Yeah, so the best place to find me is topherkeene.com, TOPHERKEENE, topherkeene.com. You can find exercises there, videos, plenty of resources for you to improve your skills as a performer, whether that's as a singer, an actor, a speaker, influencer, or anybody who uses the voice. You can also sign up for a free first session there, and I would love to get to see you, hear about your goals, learn about your voice, and give you some skills to improve that voice. You can also, easiest place to find me social media-wise is YouTube. I have around 1,000 YouTube videos. I've been on there for a long, long time, ever since high school. And there are some embarrassing videos of middle school and high school performances way back there in the catalog if you want to hunt for them. But mostly it's just performances of me singing solos at churches, running choirs, and then exercises for people to improve their voices.
I'm going to assume we just lost all of our listeners because they're running to YouTube to find, Baby Topher.
Yeah, there's some rough ones there. So the worst one is you may have heard of Bye Bye Birdie. It's a musical where more or less an Elvis parody is the main character. And in late high school, I was cast as this Elvis parody, singing this kind of like seductive love song kind of thing in the full costume, the hair, everything. Oh, one last kiss. Oh, give me one last kiss. And I'm like holding the mic stand and swinging around. And they taught me to go straight to the front row, 3 seats in, and just like sing to that person as if you're falling in love with them. And on opening night, my grandmother was in that seat. I sang my Elvis love song to my grandma. And that video is still on my YouTube channel. It has probably 2,000 or 3,000 views. About 2.25 thousand of those views are my wife just laughing hysterically and watching it on
grandmother.
Yes. So that's probably the worst one, but there's a few more embarrassing ones if you hunt deep enough. So
those are fabulous. My daughter did theater for years. Bye Bye Birdie. All of them, playing a loop in my head. So, musical theater is near and dear to my heart, and it's also very entertaining.
You can tell in your personality. You may not have been in a musical, but you have musical theater kid energy. So.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, I don't either.
I often find that, kids in musical theater are some of the shyest kids because they like being other people, but when it comes to being themselves.
And I'll tell you, Red, it actually, for the actors, because I know we've spoken a lot about the singing side of my studio. For the actors, one of the hardest transitions when you come out of stage theater, if you're a theater kid and you try to get into film, is that most film acting doesn't feel like acting anymore. Because on stage, you're being someone else. On film, you're really being yourself. You're being much more neutral, much more subtle, bringing down your energy. Now, there's room for a Jim Carrey, a Jack Black, a Robin Williams, a Kevin Hart, somebody who's wacky and out there and big and dramatic. But most film and television acting is real people in precarious situations, situations that push them beyond that naturalness. And theater and particularly musical theater is often non-real people, kind of bigger than life people in normal sort of situation. Now, the situations can be extreme, but a big part of musicals is taking a wild personality and putting it into a more day-to-day situation. The SpongeBob musical is a good example of that. You really can't go bigger than SpongeBob SquarePants in the stage musical of SpongeBob SquarePants. Like, SpongeBob's big enough, and then put him in a musical, now it's even more, right? And then most of my actors, they just really struggle because one of the big exercises we do, if anybody here listening is the kid who was star of your musicals, star of your plays in high school, identifies as a theater kid, and comes to me and says, I want to transition to film and television, one of the first exercises we're going to do is I'm going to have you sit down and say, what did you have for breakfast? And Red, what did you have for breakfast?
What I had for breakfast?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I had my usual, which was a shake.
Great. There we go. That was very natural. Now, most theater kids will say, well, for breakfast, I had toast and 3 oranges. And it's like, okay, you're performing to me now. I didn't ask you to perform a monologue about your breakfast. I asked you to tell me what you had for breakfast. Just, oh yeah, I had some toast and some oranges. And like, that's much more natural camera acting than I had some toast and oranges. But that performance gets you the role in high school theater.
Yeah.
So you learn to overdo all of this stuff to act, right? I'm acting, but no one goes to a movie to see acting. They go to see the character telling their story and living. And I don't go to see Chris Evans playing Captain America. I go to see Captain America. So I don't want to see the acting. If the acting's good, I don't see it. If the cooking's good, I don't notice it. It's not like, wow, this was braised so perfectly. It's no, it just tastes good. Good cooking just tastes good. I'm not tasting the cooking. I'm tasting the food, right? So I want to see the life story of the character. I want to see the emotions. I want to see the actions. I don't want to see the acting. I don't want all of that. Now, again, you got to put SpongeBob and Robin Williams and other people in a box and say, yeah, they're doing something different there.
Absolutely.
so that, we have that category.
Well, it's like stepping down off the stage from when I was doing stand-up and doing improv. It's people think it's the same and it's not.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And it's so there's different nuances.
There's crossover. You'd think the average stand-up comedian is better at improv than the average farmer would be. There's some crossover there, but they're not. I think Mitch Hedberg had a joke about that. He's one of my favorite comedians. And he would say, now that I'm a successful comedian, people want me to do all these things that are like comedy, but not comedy. They'll say, oh, could you write us a script for a movie? And he's like, it's really not what I do. Yeah. It's like going to a great world-class chef like Gordon Ramsay and saying, you cook delicious food. Can you farm? Like they're related, but they're really not the same skill set at all, right? So yeah, I'm right there with you that improv specialists are quite different than traditional stand-up specialists. The best can do both, certainly, but getting good enough at one is enough of a life goal for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I gave you 60 seconds to tell us a story, what would the world learn from you?
The thing that I would want everyone to know is that everyone in the world is a professional voice user. And that seems a very strange thing to say because a lot of people might say, I'm not a singer, I'm not an actor, I don't do public speaking, I'm just an accountant at a law firm. But you have to do job interviews. You have to negotiate for raises. You have to present your work to your boss. If you're an entrepreneur and you run your own business, you have to run the interviews and hire people, manage them and train them. If you are in a relationship, you have to speak to that person. You might have to propose to that person. If you are with your friends and family, you might be discussing things like the sports games and the recent stuff you've done in your job. There are always times in your life where your voice is the essential tool for expressing what's inside of you. And even a single voice lesson can help you feel more comfortable with that voice that you have. The voice that you have is not the entirety of what your voice could be. It'd be like saying, I tried to bring in 7 bags of groceries from the grocery store and I could only carry 3. I just have arms that can only carry 3 bags. Those are the arms I have. But if you trained them, if you did some push-ups and you did some curls and you worked out for a while, you drank some protein shakes, then those arms could get stronger and you could lift 4 bags and 5 bags. And maybe you never lift 7 bags. Maybe you only lift 6, but 6 is a lot more than 3. And it cuts your number of trips quite down. So I would say to anybody in the world, if you've not been a singer, if you've not been a speaker, if you've not been an actor, that you can still get value out of some vocal coaching so that that voice that comes with you every minute of every day is a more beautiful, powerful, and expressive voice.
Before I let you go, because I almost forgot, we have our guest-to-guest question.
We do.
We do. So the guest before you left behind a question for you to answer during the show. So are you ready for our guest-to-guest?
I'm ready for the guest-to-guest.
All right. What is a moment of forgiveness that was difficult but was ultimately rewarding for you?
A moment where I had to forgive and got some good rewards out of that. I'd have to say back in college when I was studying voice at a very professional level, I started out with a very nice, very sweet vocal coach, what you might expect from a lesson teacher, the nice old lady who gives you stickers and lollipops and tells you good job and that she's so proud of you and you're doing such a wonderful job. And I would come to lessons and she would say, "You've clearly practiced so much. You sound so great." And I knew that I didn't practice anywhere near as hard as I could. And I thought, I'm making this my profession. I'm pushing myself harder. I need someone who's going to push me even harder, not someone who's just going to be nice. And I looked around and I saw there was one coach at the school who about half of the lessons that he would have, people would leave in tears. And they would talk about what a jerk he was and how awful it was. And I thought, but they don't leave. They don't quit. They stay. They keep getting, beaten down, but they stay. And so I talked to him and he was willing to give me some beginning coaching. And then I was able to actually switch to his studio and he pushed me harder than anybody else has ever pushed me before. And I grew so quickly under that pushing. I needed that pushing. Now, I didn't need it at the beginning. At the beginning, I needed, encouragement and love, and everybody needs an encouraging, loving coach in the beginning to build a love for the topic. But if you're going to go to the pros, if Michael Phelps is an Olympic champion swimmer, not because nobody ever yelled at him. Nobody ever, hurled some abuse at him. I'm sure someone yelled at the pool every once in a while when he was too slow. You don't get to the Olympics without someone who's going to push you hard. So this guy pushed me hard for year after year after year. And I finally broke toward the end of college and had I stormed out of rehearsal. I threw my music on the floor. I told him that I didn't want to see him again. I hated him. And then a few months later, we sat down for coffee and cleared the air and got to a place of forgiveness. I still do think he was wrong at the time. It was a little rough. But so I didn't fully admit fault, but I realized the thing that had frustrated me so much and pushed me away from him was the thing I came to him for in the first place. So it's not fair to judge him for that. And I think the bigger lesson for that, for the audience and for me in my life, is that often it's the things that frustrate us most in people are sometimes the things that attracted us to them, or the things that we see reflected from ourselves in them, right? So I'm at my worst, I talk too much, I interrupt, I'm full of myself, I'm arrogant. People like that who talk too much, who are full of themselves, who brag a lot, who interrupt, certainly upset me. I don't like being interrupted. And that's because I like to be the one talking. So I do all the interrupting. So when they interrupt me, it makes me feel the way I make other people feel. And it flashes that up in me. So I think the biggest thing I learned from him was that there's a value to that style of coaching, but too much of it can push people away in the end. And it helped me understand where I fit in the realm of coaching, that I'm not the person who's going to crack the whip and really, really beat you down. I'm encouraging, but I'm also not that sweet old lady with stickers and lollipops. I'm going to hold you accountable with kindness and empathy. And I think for me, that fits me into a really good place in the coaching niche.
I think we can both skip counseling this week now.
Yeah. That's, to be fair, anyone who's done voice lessons before will tell you, therapist, psychologist is very much part of the job when you're a voice coach. It does not go away, because if there's any psychological, emotional stuff in there, it's reflected in the voice. The second you're sad, your voice starts choking up and freezing up. And so if a song sounds like that, it's like, hey, we got to talk about your mom. Sorry, we got to clear the deck. You're not going to be able to sing the song until you talk about your mom. Pick out your phone, call your mom, say you're sorry. Cool. Now we can sing the song. It's just it will get in the way 100%.
Topher, I appreciate your time. It's extremely valuable, and I hope I honored that here today.
You very much did, Red. It was wonderful to meet you, and can't wait to talk again soon.
Fabulous. To our listeners, if you have a story to share, visit tellasastorypodcast.com. If you're an aspiring author, a seasoned business owner, or looking to elevate your personal brand, visit BelmontCityPress.com for expert advice on writing your own success story. Trust the next chapter, because you are the author. Now, tell us a story.